Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of the character tutorial series. In this episode, I've had a lot of requests for this. Um, so, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add colors to these guys. Um, Something I'm doing different this time. I am recording this live, so hopefully everything goes right. Um, but it's my first time, so yeah, there might be some weird silences and whatnot, but hopefully it won't be too bad. So for these guys, the way I color them is pretty similar. So I won't do both. I won't do both in two different times. I'm just gonna do it all at once right now. And the way I approach this is actually pretty simple. So I always start to do um, the main shading first. So what I mean by that is I take into consideration all my lights in my scene and I apply those on my characters. And I'm not gonna worry about color of the hair, color of the eyes, the lip color, or the different subtleties in the skin color. So around the eyes could be more a little bit more red, around the ears as well, blah blah blah. But I'm not gonna worry about any of that. So what I'm gonna do right now is just fill this in with my base color, which is normally, I try to go in this range here, so not too yellow, not too red, somewhere in the middle, um, and right in the middle of the color picker, and then you get something like that. So we're gonna apply this real quick, and once you have that, that's your main color for that's gonna be the darkest your skin will ever be. And what we're gonna do from here is just build it up with different shades of lighter, sort of beige or whatever this color is. And so before we do that, we are gonna set up our light setup so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So first, number one light, which is present in most of my drawings, um, is the sort of the ambient light coming from the top, which represents the skylight. So it's always very diffuse, very subtle uh, hint of blue on the characters, as long as they're outside, obviously. If they're not, then if they're inside, it would be a more it would be whatever your lighting is like in the room you're in. But I think do most of my characters outside, so that's why I use this most of the time. The second light, well, actually, I should have started with this one, but this one's gonna be the main light source, which is gonna be a white kind of color, and this one's gonna be a little bit hard to illustrate where it comes from, but basically it's gonna come from uh, the viewer's eyes if you want. So like in this scene, I'm not gonna do anything crazy with with the lighting. Everything's gonna be really simple. The background is white, so I don't want anything to be too dark. I don't want anything to be too bright. I just want a uh, good average lighting. So let's see. This one's gonna be trying to do this in 3 dimension. Coming kind of from there. So if you can imagine this arrow being in 3 dimension, coming from you and pointing at him. And the final one is gonna be I like to use these when I'm almost done with the image, because they always make them pop, especially if you have like a really busy background, and that's the backlight. And this backlight can be really any color, and it really doesn't matter. Um, when you choose the top light, obviously the ambient light from the sky, that's gonna tend to be blue because most of the time the sky is blue. Um, and the main lights, generally speaking, it's hard to do it white unless again you have some crazy plan for your illustration. But that's the base. So most of the time those are going to be the same in any of my drawings, and then the one's going to change maybe is the backlight. Let's do it. Let's go with really light blue, and we're gonna go hit from this direction. So I don't know if you guys can see it against the white background. It's really subtle, but right. And now that we're set with this, let's go. Let's go and apply the main lights. Let's go with the main light source of this one here, and we're gonna follow, as you can see, you know, on the very right, far right on the screen is the good old reference guy that we use for the mail tutorial. And if you haven't seen that, I suggest you go back because it would make a lot more sense right now. And what I'm going to do is follow exactly the planes that I had for him and apply this color that is going to be my main light onto him in the same way. So, and it's going to be really rough for now, so I'm going to just follow exactly, you know, where the light reacts on that example. And after that, what we are going to do is we are going to smooth everything out, and you'll see it'll make a lot more sense. So for now, I'm just going to fill this in really quickly. It doesn't have to be perfect against the line, don't have to be perfect, because like I just said, we're going to smooth it out in a minute. So just roughly sort of contour the shapes that you had. There we go, and I think that's as far as I'll go for the male. You know, again, the same rule kind of works here, where if you smooth too much with the male, then it starts to look, you know, more like an even skin and tends to look more girly-ish. So for him, you want him to have, like, you know, strong edges. So, well, at least if you're planning to give him strong features. And that's it for the guy. You can see it's already starting to come together. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the female. So obviously, you know, when I do this, when I paint ahead, I'm not gonna go through all of this all the time. I just think about it. But I want to show you guys exactly the way I think when I do it, because this is what I used to do until I got used to doing it in my head. So this is really good practice. And if you're starting, I would suggest you do that all the time. And you can imagine that, you know, the way I do it for the heads is the same way I do it for the rest of the body. So you just have to simplify all your shapes in your body, and depending on the light source, you kind of imagine those shapes, you know, those really simple shapes like this, where the light would hit, sorry, and just apply the colors really roughly first, because we don't want to go into too much details, because, you know, obviously if something goes wrong, then you can just do it again, and it's not that big of a deal because you haven't invested too much of your time in it. Where it gets a little bit more frustrating is when you spend a lot of time on one little area to polish it and everything, and then realize that, oh, it's not right. And that's something I had to get used to with time. Meaning that, you know, it was really hard before for me to sort of look at an image and acknowledge that something was wrong and redo it. I would just get, you know, attached emotionally to whatever I painted, and that's really bad. And, you know, the way that I got rid of it is by using a single layer when I paint, because then, I mean, there's no going back. You know, whatever you do, every brush stroke counts, and it's you know, it's set in stone once it's put down there. If you want to redo something, you have to properly redo it and go over your old brush strokes, you know, as if it was traditional paint. Yeah. Okay, so now the first step is done. First light has been applied. So let's go ahead and hide this guy because he's done. No need for you anymore. Okay, and so like I said, you know, don't worry about any of the any of the lip color, the eye color, all that stuff. We're not gonna worry about that. Okay, so now the guy, I'm gonna leave the guy alone, or should I do the guy and leave the female alone? I'm gonna do female because the guy, for male, I mean, male's almost there, you know, like okay, maybe I'll apply this color to both, and then I'll stop there. Okay, so for the top lights, I normally, so you won't see me just do this very often, but I use a layer for this simply because I use a very particular, like a very intense color for this. So, you know, as you can see, it's blue. It doesn't work. But unless I go and, you know, press very, very lightly on my pen like this and try to apply like an even pressure throughout the whole thing, it's really tough to just have like an even the brush stroke for this. Unless, of course, you know, you can go down and drop your opacity or whatever, but I like the flexibility that the layer gives me for this particular thing. So what we're going to do is apply it really, really roughly. And again, you know, this light is hitting from the top. So everything that's, you know, here, that's getting hit by it directly, of course. So if you imagine this is a ball, you know, the top part of the ball is going to get hit most, while the bottom here won't get hit at all. So just think of it this way. So his forehead, you know, the top of his forehead, since it's kind of a ball, top of his forehead here versus here is going to get hit a little bit more. And the same thing for, you know, the top of his cheeks here, going to get a little bit more light than the bottom part, top of the nose here, and that's going to be it for this one. So, you know, again, as you can see, we just did that on this guy. We're going to redo the same thing here. So don't worry about putting too much. Doesn't matter. You can just drop the opacity layer. And we're going to do the same thing for the hair as well. And what I do for hair often, and I'm not sure there's a good reason for this, why I do it, except the fact that it looks kind of cool, is I use the whatever light source I'm using right now. I use that as the main light source for my hair, and it always looks pretty nice, like especially as a base. So you see what I mean when I do it. It gives you a really, really good base, and then after that you can just go back in and sort of just what am I trying to do here? Where's my eraser? Okay, and you can just go in and go back to your main light source and then finalize the hair this way. But hold on, you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so now I have this on layer. Add a little bit more to the female. Okay, there we go. Should be good enough. So, you know, again, I'm doing this live and I'm talking at the same time, so of course I'm not gonna polish things as much as I would probably normally do if I were doing this offline. But it should give you a really good idea. Then you can just drop down the intensity for this to a level that's not, you know, where it's not completely blue. So this is nothing, and I don't want to go even 50%, is too much. So I go really, really subtle. So something like this, maybe. Click, click, click. There you go. So you're gonna say that it doesn't add too much, but it's a very subtle thing that it actually, and you know, especially if the background wasn't so white, you'd probably see it a little bit more. But it's the foundation lights. So, you know, if you have a dark background, you always try to think of it this way. So there's always a light coming from the top, and you'll see when you just, you know, you don't even think about it, just do it, and to all the objects in your scene, and you'll see you'll sometimes get really interesting surprises. Alright, so let me do the same for the hair. Collapse this. So the hair can be a little bit, a little bit bluer. You can add a little bit of that blue in the hair because the hair is pretty reflective, and it would catch a little bit more of that light source. Right. Same for female. And I'm gonna stop here with the male. Maybe do his eyes, and that's gonna be it. Alright, really roughly get something like this. And then you can imagine that if I was to think into consideration the main light source, which is clearly not blue, you can just go back in and take the color of the hair, whatever your hair color would be in this case. In this case, it could be here. Let's do that first. Separate skin color from the hair color. Let's go the boring black. I'm gonna switch to color mode. Go over this real quick. Alright, and that's it. Same for the male. Alright. And then you think about, okay, my main color is white. My main light source is white, and my hair is black. So let's give it maybe a little bit of warmth in there, and you're gonna apply back to normal. And now we're gonna apply this color, the main source, to the front of the hair, because this is what's getting hit the most by this light. So I still have my line out on the hair. As you can see, it's making everything a little bit darker. So soon we're gonna get rid of it. So let's just do the white of the eyes. When I do eyes, I think you have to always think about the color of your background. So in this case, of course, it's easy because the background is white. But the eyeball is is a very reflective surface because it's wet all the time. So it'll catch automatically the color of your background. So let's say you're outside, you're gonna get more of that blue from the sky because this is if you look at a picture, the sky takes a pretty big part of it. So this is gonna be mostly what gets reflected by your eyes. And in this case, we get it pretty easy because the background is white, so it's nothing to think about. Yeah, so just grab that white from the background, apply it to the eyes, and that's it. If you want, so at this point, I'm gonna merge everything so that now whenever I paint, I'm gonna paint over the lines. Again, you don't have to do this if you want, if you prefer. If you don't feel too confident about it, just pop a new layer, and then you can draw over it. But screw that. Let's merge it, and let's go into that girl head and make it work a little better. So you look at the guy right now. He's pretty much done. Like of course, you can go in here and finesse some of the edges. Had some like light hits in certain areas. Just like what I'm doing right now. But for guys, you don't wanna polish your brushstrokes too much. When I'm talking about brushstrokes, like this area here, for example, I would leave it like that for male. For the female, I might want to smooth it out a little bit more, just like what I'm gonna do with her. But yeah, for the male, I like it a little bit rougher of a look. Maybe top of the nostrils. And then contour the nose. And you know, that's good enough. So of course, you know, we'd probably spend more time on the hair because right now it looks like nothing. But yeah, so you guys have had a lot of requests for this too, so I'm gonna do this a little bit later. But tutorial on how I do hair. But for now, we're just gonna skip it. Call this guy done-ish, and jump into the female. So, you know, we're gonna do the same steps for this, except it's gonna be a little bit more polished. And she's got a lot of brush strokes going on, remaining from the line art. So we still have a little bit of cleanup to do. I'm just gonna go in and again contour everything, make sure everything is nice and clean. I haven't been doing it for this one, but remember, oops, what the hell is going on? The flip, and make sure you flip your image often, so that you don't get used to your mistakes. I'm probably gonna tell you guys to do this every time I make a video, because it's really important. So just do it. Okay, so for her, stuff we don't want versus what we had for the male is, oh my god, I'm about to sneeze, but it won't come out. Okay, so for her, we're gonna just erase a little bit more is what we're gonna do. So erase a little bit more of the information I have in the different volumes that I painted in. So for example, the nose here, let's get rid of most of that, because unless you want a manly looking woman, you want to try to get rid of the nose as much as possible. And of course, this is front view. I'm gonna do the same thing with when I do different angles for the heads, because obviously in different angles you would probably want the bridge of the nose to show a little bit more. But for this case, not needed. Okay, so cleaning up a little bit. Alright, so what we're going to do to smooth things out, there are various ways you can do this. And what I do, I like to use simple tools. And if anything, I like to even use more brush strokes than I probably would need. So in my case, I'll just use my square brush right here. And you can also download that in the description below. But you could use something like just a normal Photoshop soft brush like this. That will do the trick just right. And you can also use a smudge if you prefer, the smudge tool here. I don't like it too much because it just blurs everything in a really strange way. But some people are really good with it, so whatever. Use what you please, what you like. It doesn't matter, as long as you get the results. That's all that you should care about. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with this girl. Get rid of all the harsh lines in there, because when there's a harsh line, it means there's a harsh change of plane on the face. And if you have a smooth, feminine face, you will never see that. So get rid of it. Right. Okay, so there you have it. It's a lot smoother now. Maybe add some hints on the ears. You know, the ears I'm gonna pretty much skip for this because this. All right, I won't. I'll do it right now. Let's not be lazy. Okay, something like that. Okay, good. You get the idea. Okay. Okay, so next, remember we still have one light source that we haven't applied yet. So, but this one, it's up to you. You can do it at the beginning. You can do it at the very, very end. Um, Sometimes I keep it for the end because it's pretty rewarding. It's a really, really fun one to do, and it just makes the picture once if you're almost done and you do that step, it's like right now it's done. So for this one, I guess I could do it right now. No, I won't. So I'm gonna go in and we're gonna clean up the eyes, fix the lips, add some color to her iris, and then she's gonna be gone. And then we're gonna do the final step. So try to think of every place where the light would hit. So think of it, light's coming from the top. This light source here. So you're gonna have light coming from here, and you can grab whatever results you got from adding the blue lights to your skin, which is this thing here in the forehead. You can use that light to sort of highlight all the feature that are getting hit by that top light a little bit more. So top of the eyelids is exactly the same as the top of a ball, so you would get some light here. You would get no light on the opposite side, so the top here won't get hit too much by that. Which is why I'm adding a little bit more shadows here. And good enough for this. Okay, you would get hit. I also have something I do most of the time, and this is a weird one, so this is a really personal taste, but I would even add that if I don't have any particular light source. Regardless of my light setup, I always add this stuff in the end, and it's just like highlights in the corner of the eyes here, because you just figure it's a little bit. It's like a weird angle, and it catches a lot of the light most of the time. And you can see this on the real face too. But I tend to amplify it a little bit more in my drawings. And the same thing, around the edges of the nostrils here. Very, very subtle, just to highlight the contour of it. And then you can erase a little bit of it, just so that a hint of it remains, like that. And top here is going to get hit directly over that. It's going to be shadows because there's a change of planes in that area of the face. Here. In this line here that I'm doing right here. You can also find it in here, kind of, plane here changes from whites. So this is what I'm talking about here, this region. So I have it really, really obvious here. Okay, and what's left is the mouth. a little bit. So hint of light at the bottom here, and then obviously, light throughout the bottom lid because it's getting hit directly by the light coming from the top and directly from the light coming from well, the main source of light coming from our eyes, I guess. So obviously she doesn't have any makeup now, so we're gonna do that next. And the top lip is always going to be, especially in this kind of lighting environment, is always going to get hit. It's always going to be, the upper lip is always going to be lit a little bit underlit. Well, I'm having a hard time explaining this way more than I should. Okay, so we're going to pick up, so what you can do for this is normally I grab the skin color. So this is my skin color, and then you want to go down a little bit and then saturate it with red a little bit more, and that's good enough. And now you can do it very different ways. I like to use color for this so that I don't, well, actually, yeah, you can do it this way, or you can just use the regular color for it. I use color mode as a base for anything, so it's a really good base. Like I would never consider this final, but at least you get stuff in really quickly, and it just makes things go a little faster. Okay, so the closer you get to the inside of the mouth, so the lines separating the two lips, you're gonna get less and less light here, so you go it's darker and darker. Okay, and we're gonna do the lip. Again, I'm gonna add some lip gloss, so just a lighter shade of pink. Then you go really rough with this, like just almost a circle kind of. That's it. Simple. And if you want, a little bit of contour to emphasize it. Yeah, man, this is pretty much it. Don't go too crazy. And then just the outside of the lip, maybe highlighted with a brighter color, like what I'm doing right now. And then you can what I do also to finish this up, and you don't want like sort of all the dirt around our mouth right here, even though it makes sense, it's shadowed. You just clean this up a little bit to smooth out the transition between pink lip and skin color. Alright, well, she looks pissed. And the final touch for the lips is gonna go in, take a color that's a lot brighter, maybe put some highlights around the contour of the lips. So you can use actually the highlight that you use down there for this. That works as well. So something like that. Alright, and yeah, I'm gonna stop here because that's enough noodling. The last step, if you wanna make sure the space between what I'm trying to say is, if you want to make sure the space between the two lips is dark enough, because it should be, you can just go in with a multiply brush and like a dark color and go over that with one final brush stroke. Then you get something like that. So now it's just just gonna finish the eyes, and we're almost done. Go back to normal mode, obviously. And as you can see, the eyes is not completely white. You know, it's not pure white as the background is. And that's because if I want to have a highlights, I want it to contrast. You know, so I'm not gonna use pure white for the eyes because that would be too much anyways. Because and there's no way the eye is getting hit directly by all the lights in the scene. So clean this up. Maybe at the bottom of it here. And the corner of the eye, you know, this part here is gonna be, it's reddish. So you can add that in there. I know a lot of people don't even draw this, but I like the extra bit of realism that it gives me. Even though I hate realism, I kind of like the mix to have some realistic stuff and mix with a nice style. I'm gonna add some more lights to the top of our eyebrows. Actually, the bottom of our eyebrows, right here. And you know, so you can see like the darker color that I use, the base color that I use, like this one here, is a little bit desaturated. So you know, if you want, you can go in and maybe add some more color to it, like this color here. You know, you can go in and maybe switch it to something more like this, or depending on whatever your environment is, you might want to change that color to something that fits, you know, that blends in more with whatever you have. But also always tweaks you can do at the end, you know. And if you go like a Control B, and that brings up the color balance tool, and you can always change, you know, a color in here to whatever you prefer. But let's not do this. Let's finish the eyes. And for the eyes, especially if you know, if it's not going to be a portrait, I go really quick with the eyes. So we're just going to use this color, green. So you just go around really roughly around the iris, and then I'm gonna add a little bit more black to simulate the shadow coming from the top. And then you know, you can clean this up a little bit if you want, so add darker contour to it. Make sure the shape is the same on both sides. So this is a good time to flip again, see what this looks like. Okay, it's decent, good enough. And for the eyes, what we're gonna do to, you know, to finish this off is just add the. So in theory, there should be one highlight in the eyes for each light source, or for everything that's emitting enough light to be considered a light source. So you know, a big reflection in the scene, or maybe water reflecting the light of the sun or whatever. But in this case, we're gonna keep it simple. So we're just gonna use the strongest light source and use that as the specular source also. So in this case, it's gonna be this one here, which we don't have in the scene yet. We're gonna have really shortly. So I'm just gonna take the white spot of white. That's it. The light's done. Okay, and finally, what we're gonna do is add in this color, which is the backlight. And for this, you don't want to have too much. So it's really gonna be, you're really gonna be contouring all the details on one side of your face. So in this case, we're gonna pick up the left side and just add contouring light to make the character pop. So again, think of it as you're basically turning everything that's this color, this shade of gray, into this blue. So, but the same thing applies. Always think of it as a ball. So everything that's closer to the side here is going to get hit by the light more directly, so it's going to be brighter, and everything that's around this area here of the shaded area is going to be hit by the light less, so it won't be as bright. So in my case, I have a really narrow sort of gradient going on. Even that's too much. Just gonna get rid of it. All right, and of course the hair is gonna get lit by this also, just the same way. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on the hair. At least give it something. Okay, and I'm just missing the nose here a little bit. Since it's really far from the actual light source, you want this to be really subtle on the nose. So almost just a highlight, Okay, and this is how I do it. So it's been a pretty long tutorial, but hopefully this was helpful. And next in the series, I'm gonna do the body proportions and how I create my bodies, and then we'll go from there. So again, leave any question you might have. Hopefully this was somewhat useful. And you guys can always let me know what I can improve in the tutorial. If this was too long and you feel like I could have done it in a much shorter time frame, then yeah, mention that. And yeah, this is pretty much how I approach it. So again, I won't go through all of this, because obviously to paint this little thing, it really doesn't need 40 minutes. But this is what I think about when I do it. So if you can't do that easily yet, then go through this process, multiple times until you get used to it, and then this will come more normally. Will come more naturally. Sorry, and that's pretty much it. So one final thing I forgot to add in this is maybe, shadows, especially now that I have a really strong backlight. Might want to add like some shadows here and there, but it's up to you. Don't really need it. This looks more like a mustache, so I'm not gonna do it. Fuck it. Yeah, there you have it. So that was it for this episode, and I'll see you guys next week in episode 4 of the character tutorial series. Alright, later guys.